Hey there, this is Ryan Nicola. I just want to thank you for watching this video. What I'm going to present to you is an interview that I did with Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time. And we talk about some of the concepts that I had created for a seller financing masterclass. And so what you're about to see is that interview promoting this masterclass. Go ahead and enjoy it. There's a lot of great tips here for you. At the end, I'm going to make an offer for you to be able to join that masterclass. So stay tuned until the end.
Hey everyone, how you doing today? As I mentioned in the daily financial news this morning, I have an interview that I've been looking forward to do for a couple of weeks. And I just want everybody in the One Rental at a Time channel, every One Rental at a Time current and future student, to realize we owe this gentleman a huge debt of gratitude. I sometimes like to say it's better to be lucky than good. And let me just set the stage for you before we bring him on. This individual reached out to me about 45 days ago and said, I want to get back. I want to take your One Rental at a Time course, how to get started one rental at a time, and add to it. His specific expertise is seller financing or creative financing, an area that I have no experience in. And I'm like, dude, if you want to do it, let's go. So we talked about it. He agreed and has gone ahead and created almost 2 hours of content for us, talked about great examples. And again, in an area I have no experience that will, quite frankly, be very valuable, likely for the next decade. And we will get into that. So without further ado, let's welcome Ryan Nicola to the show and give him all the props that he deserves. So Ryan, thank you for me and the entire audience.
Well, thank you. I thought for sure you had someone else in mind that was super special and awesome, but he mentioned that this morning. So when I don't know if you can deliver on a tee-up like that. Thank you so much. Wow.
Well, I mean, again, right? You're a member of the course. You've talked about it in the past, how it even helped you as a very experienced investor kind of see the market a little bit different. It made you some money. And yes, you know what? You're like, I have a sweet spot. Michael does it. Let's add to his course. And I'm like, let's do it. And, that idea first is very valuable, but really it sparked the idea of reaching out to other experts. It's just wonderful. I can add around the edges. Like, for example, in seller financing, I have an accounting background. So I sat down with a CPA and we added an hour of material. Like, okay, what's it mean for your accounting, like your statements and all of that. So, we rounded out this section, but yeah, you made the course remarkably valuable. Well, I actually talked about, what, folks, we're going to raise the course. We're going to raise the course 50%. But here's the deal. We had over 100 people sign up for the course. And I'm like, it's my course. It's my rules. I get to make it up. So
that's beautiful. I mean, it's the whole principle of like people over profits or compassion over commissions. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It makes it so much more authentic. And I hope people take advantage of it, because I can tell you, yes, for a fact, I have made not just a couple of extra thousands of dollars, but tens of thousands of dollars from implementing the information I got from your course.
That's awesome.
It'll be 100, but it's not there yet.
No, it will be though. I mean, the beauty of what we talk about is it's just a way to look at it, way to evaluate it, see the market. And the beauty is the market is about to shift again. And because you look every day, the opportunities will show up. But let's talk about you and what you've done. So why don't you set it up? Because again, you broke it into 3 different videos, which I thought was great. Why don't we just kind of tee up each one, right? Your first video is kind of you and your story, without going into any gory detail, just kind of set that up, how you became to see seller financing as the way for financial freedom and really take care of your family.
Basically, life is kind of what happens to you, not what you want to have happen to you.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the long and short of it.
Yeah.
And along the way, there are people that reach out to you and they give you a hand up, not a handout, but a hand up. And that was probably the main reason why I wanted to reach out, because I mean, you put this at such a price point that almost, I mean, there's no reason for anyone not to be able to do this.
Yeah, on purpose. Yeah.
And it's, for sure. So for me, life was handed to me, and I lost my job, was on food stamps. I was homeless for a little bit. My wife and kids, we were separated, not from like marital dispute, but because I had to leave to go find work. And it was a challenge. It was a struggle. And seller financing was honestly the only option for me because I had no money, I had no credit, and I had no credibility either. And so for me, the ability to lean on the mentor that reached out to me and gave me that hand up is what set the stage for me to think, well, shoot, most people wait to buy and hold until they're at the end stage of their investing cycle. They wholesale, they flip, and then they do the buy and hold. For me, I completely reversed it. I'm like, I want to hold all these properties and have the cash flow set me free. And it was, I wouldn't do it a different way if I had to do it over again.
And I want people to hear what you just said, because so much of what's out there that's pumped out there, it's like, hey, start wholesaling, right? Go direct, go marketing, go texting, go get those chunks of money, which, oh, by the way, are highly taxed money. And oh, by the way, eventually you'll get rentals. That doesn't happen. You get those chunks of money if you're successful, which not everybody is.
That's the 30-year plan. I mean, that's like going and getting a job and working for someone for 30 years. And unfortunately, you're buying into the same mentality of going to school, getting a job, and going to college. It's the exact same process.
It's exactly the same. And then, oh, by the way, you get addicted to the check, and then you go flex, and then you go do this. And you're increasing your own rat race.
Yes, exactly. Now your expenses are now too high because you've been flexing and you've been spending all this frivolous stuff. And that was the biggest thing is I could spend my rent money and next month I'm getting more money coming in. I can go spend my wholesale check and then I'm stuck. I'm like, crap, I got to go get another job. I go get another house.
Yeah, exactly. But really what I wanted to highlight is you were looking at seller financing with no money, no credit, no experience as just going right to buy and hold, right? I'm going to set up these structures, win for the seller, win for your family. And that's amazing. Again, you're coming into this not as a single man, right? You already had a wife, or you already had a couple of kids, and you have more than a couple now, right? I mean, to paint the picture of the family now.
My wife was pregnant with our fourth at that time, and we have 5 now.
Yeah, that's a lot of mouths to feed. So
it is definitely a lot of mouths to feed, and it was, it's funny because you're never done with this game. It's never enough because I thought in 2017, 2017. Yeah, that's what it was. It was 2017. My expenses, my monthly cash flow had exceeded my expenses. I'm like, I made it. I retired. I took 3 months off, and then my kids need braces. All 3 of them at the same time. I'm like, oh, dude, okay, there goes cash flow. All right, go time out. Let's go get some more houses. And it's so funny to think how small-minded I was back then because from where I come from, like from food stamps to okay, I got $1,000 cushion. We're good.
Yeah. No, I mean, but again, and this is done with. Again, just like the course says, focus and daily execution. What you're providing in the seller financing course is a way to, help sellers get out of tough situations and profit as well. So why don't you kind of name, because you do a great job in video number 2, kind of outlining the pain, the reality that some sellers find themselves in through no fault of their own. Just life happens, and sometimes you get got. And why don't you go ahead and just name those properties? Because again, when they get the course, they'll hear them. Why don't you just tease the names a little bit?
Yeah, no, for sure. Before I do that, though, I want to share something that I think is going to be valuable to your audience that are watching this, is especially right now. Right now, at any time in the history of investing, you're going to have a lot of investors, or not, excuse me, a lot of homeowners. Some of them may even be investors, but they're going to be crying for debt relief, and the debt relief that they're looking for isn't there. The government's not going to bail them out. They're not going to save them. And this is where people like me and you will step in. And the debt relief that we offer is, let me take over your payments, because obviously that's the pain you're feeling right now. And that debt relief can be caused by multiple different things, not just a deferment or this, the COVID-19 situation that people have had, but it could be from job loss. It could be from bankruptcy. It could be from, any tired landlord that has had someone that just took advantage of the situation that was presented them.
Yeah. And I want to hit that again, because a lot of folks out there, again, that don't have any experience, that hasn't been doing this for decades like us. First off, they looked at the foreclosure moratorium and they were all screaming, $3.2 million or 3.2 million homes coming on the market. It's going to crash. Not going to happen. I've been screaming that's not going to happen. It's not. Now with this avoidable foreclosure bending over backwards, it's not going to happen. But you brought up an excellent point, and why I said it's lucky. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Seller financing, what you have created in this course, is going to probably be the vehicle where more houses are bought in the next 2 to 3 years than any other way because of these avoidable foreclosures, folks. This is what the government is going to do. I'm just going to make up the numbers, but you'll get this story. Yeah. Somebody somewhere in this country bought a $200K home and they couldn't pay for it. And let's just say their payment was $1,000 for easy math. They now have it paid for 14 months. They owe 14 grand. They'll waive, late pays and all of that, but they're not going to forget that 14 grand. They're going to take that 14 grand, stick it on as a second at 0% interest, no interest, none of that stuff. But it is going to be debt that is there.
I have several of those properties, as you know, from going through the course.
Yeah, exactly.
And I tell you exactly how I picked those up in that course.
Yeah, because again, when you look at this from a cash flow perspective, you can create amazing cash flow. But the people that are in the position that it's, for me, this is going to boil down to some people are like rent controlled housing because they can't afford to leave unless they talk to a guy like you or me that can get them out of this bad situation.
Well, I want to take that even a step further because what's happening right now is individuals, they're paying 20, 30%, at least in my market, over market value for these properties.
I know, it's crazy.
And life happens. I mean, the average time a person's in a house is 3-point-something years. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but it's very limited, Mm-hmm. And what happens is it's like when you buy a brand new car and you drive it off the lot, man, you've just depreciated that asset. And so they have this house that they overpaid for. And then if life happens to them and they have to move, they are stuck unless they're going to write a huge check.
And most Americans can't. Yeah.
No, they can't. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to offer them debt relief. And guess what you've been harping on is get that 30-year fixed, low interest money. And while I didn't buy it myself, I will go ahead and take over their asset.
Every time. Every single time.
And I will ride that thing into the sunset.
Exactly. No, this stuff that you put in the course, man, I've watched it. I actually watched a couple of videos twice. I already knew your story in one, so I only watched that one once. But I watched video number 2 and number 3. And I'm like, I got to go watch it again because that's cool, but I got to watch it again. So you've got this stuff dialed in for folks. So I appreciate it. But yeah, set the story because people, you got to pay attention. I'd rather be lucky than good. Again, Brian brought up the idea of adding the section. He graciously did it. We've added some accounting speak to it as well. And originally we were going to raise the price, but we had 100 people join, over 100. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to push it off a month. So if you want me to push it off again and help more people, sign up and we will just keep it going. Every month we have 100, I won't raise the price. We'll just keep helping people.
Beautiful. Yeah. I couldn't think of a better way to give back, honestly.
There you go. So set the story, paint the picture of these 3 houses or 3 situations, at least name them for folks.
I'm drawing a blank on it because I put out there, like, I think 12 or 15 different properties of mine. Which 3 were you mentioning?
I don't, the one lady, just talk about 3 of the stories. I remember 3 of the stories well, and I forget the names.
I think I know which one you're talking about. So there's one story where it's a husband and wife are getting a divorce.
Yes.
Okay. So husband and wife, they're getting a divorce. A wholesaler goes and ties it up. Like, I got this house.
Yes.
There was no equity. It fell out of escrow, and they're getting a divorce. I didn't mention this in the course, but I'm there with the notary as we're signing the deed and everything over, and they are going head to head, and they're fighting at each other. And I was like, oh my gosh! Like, I'm looking in the kitchen, I'm like making sure all the knives are put up. There's nothing out there, and then it was probably one of the most heartbreaking things is when they finally signed the deed and they knew that it was over. They both just sobbed and cried for a good 5 minutes. And then they hugged each other and they said, thank you.
Yeah, that was, that's weird, right? But I mean, that's the key of the seller finance. You're going to find situations where people are stuck.
They were stuck. And that was their debt relief. Another family, okay, husband and wife, he paints houses for a living and he's on a metal roof and he slides off, breaks his neck. She's in cancer chemotherapy right now, and so he's paying for it and doing this stuff. And what happened is they can't afford their house anymore. They need to sell this home. But during his ailment of recuperating from a broken neck, and then her with her cancer, they depleted all of their savings. They were broke. And only at that point did Uncle Sam step in and said, oh, we'll pay your cancer medication for you. And it was like thousands of dollars a month for them. Mm-hmm. And so they had equity in their home, but they couldn't show it because if they showed anything more than $2,000 in their bank account, bye-bye to their money. Uncle Sam was like, sorry, we're not going to pay for your medication anymore. Mm-hmm. And so we had to come up with a very creative solution to help that family get what they needed as far as their equity, but also help them move on as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just family after family after family that we've helped. I mean, there was a military guy. And I think this will happen more than not across the United States. So he got PCS, or he got transferred from one state to another. He bought the house in 2006. What is he
Woo!
going to do?
Yeah. That would be the peak, folks, in case you don't remember.
Yeah. So he transfers, and I didn't go into this kind of detail, but what happened was he had rented it out. They trashed it. He remodeled it. It sat vacant. And at this time, this is now, so he gets transferred in 2008, and house is upside down $50,000. So he does all the remodel. Then it sits vacant because he's out of state trying to self-manage. Someone comes in and strips the copper out of the property.
I
and
remember
so
those
he has
times.
to put more money into it.
Yeah.
And then I just happened to knock on his door through the internet. I saw that he had an ad on Craigslist, and I said, "Hey, I can help you here, buddy."
Yeah.
And at that time, he was just like, "I'm done." In fact, he actually ended up paying me to take his house. He's like, "I will write you a check," because he knew that he was still upside down $50,000. He wasn't going to write that big of a check, but it was a sizable check. It was 5 figures, and he says, "Please take my house from me."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Again. And the reason I think this is important, because now's the time to learn, right? I think we are going through a market adjustment this year. I do think we're going to have some more inventory come on with all these threats of tax increases and 1031 and all of that. But where we're going to be, folks, next year, the year after, and the year after, is there's going to be we're talking millions of Americans with a debt structure in an asset that they can't get away from. It just won't fit the normal model.
And there's this stigma, this shame. I know this because I went through this. I was foreclosed on in 2010. My wife was pregnant with our second child, and our daughter was just barely a year old, and we were kicked out the day after Christmas.
Oh.
And as a man, as a father, as a provider, I mean, nothing kicks you in the teeth like that. Like not feeling you can't support your family and you're losing everything. And the fact of the matter is it was my fault. I ignored all the signs for the longest time. The notices would come in the mail. I'd rip them up before my wife would see them. I wanted her to think that I had everything under control. I was this man and all this stuff. And I created this situation. And so there's a lot of shame sometimes when you're talking to these individuals. They're not going to come out and openly tell you, "Hey, man, I just woke up this morning and decided not to pay my bills."
Yeah. You're
going to have to dig, and you're going to have to try to find out in a very compassionate way what the real situation and problem is. But when you uncover it, man, you've uncovered everything in that moment that will turn the tide for them and for you financially. But you have to know how to dig.
Yeah. And again, I've been through this content, folks. This is not your normal wholesaler BS. This is not go buy a cheap house that, they've owned free and clear because grandma bought it and, the grandkid has it now and, they're just going to sell it at a fire sale price. This is situations where wholesalers can't make deals, right? The traditional way. And again, I want to go back to the earlier point. You did this this is all about buy and hold. Go find the pain, ask questions, shut up and listen, and then figure out a win-win situation, right? You're not, right? Some of the wholesaling programs I've seen out there, you're essentially trying to rip people off. My words, not yours. Right? Just bend them over, take as much money as you can, go celebrate your 50K win, and go buy some stupid Louis Vuitton bag or whatever. What you're working through is you're just trying to create small margins, right? Understand their pain, figure it out, remove the stress situation, and yeah, you're going to cash flow a couple $100. That's awesome, right? You just keep stacking those wins. You're not trying to, I hate hearing stories where a wholesaler went in, the classic, "Oh, I found an old lady who's lived in the house for 50 years and I just, got her for $100,000. That does not make me feel good.
No. And unfortunately that does happen a lot. Hearing you talk, it sparks a thought in my mind that I hadn't really had before. And I like to frame it, in this mindset. When people buy this house, most of the people that I'm working with, they only own one property. This is it. This is like their only house. And for most people, that's the largest financial decision they've ever made in their life, is to buy that property. And so it's not for us to think that it's going to be as easy for them just to go ahead and sign that property over. It's equivalent of basically the same thing. It's the largest financial transaction of their life, and they're shifting it now to you. And so there's a lot of trust that has to happen in that transference of the property and basically your credibility that you're going to perform on what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, and that's really what I wanted to call out by going through the course is you're gonna hear a lot. You're gonna have to watch it a couple of times. You've got several things in the video where people can reach out to you, right? To get even more information. If you're ready, if you're going to go deep, there's more, right? You provided tremendous amount of stuff, but there is always more. But where I was going with this again is I do feel icky sometimes that I see those celebrations like, oh, I got her for $100,000. That's not okay. What you're doing, what you're teaching, what you're providing the audience is those folks are in a bad financial situation, right? And oh, by the way, they're going to thank you when you're done, right?
Not just when I'm done. I constantly get thank you text messages and cards.
Sure, yeah. Because again, right, they're like, you make the payment, right? You're taking it over.
Oh, their credit is like amazing at this point. They're like, I get credit offers from everybody, you know? Yeah. But at the same time, I literally have one woman, talk about the old lady situation. Mm-hmm. I didn't go into this one so this is a bonus. She inherited a property from her mom. And unfortunately, right before her mom, this is what gets me. Yeah. Her mom she was terminal. She was on cancer. She had cancer, and she had a lot of equipment in the house to keep her in the house for hospice purposes. Sure. And someone comes along the lines and they knock on her door like, oh, you have a high energy bill. Let's slap solar on your house. And what it ended up being was a 30-year loan or lease for $60,000. And she was given like 3 months to live. Well, she didn't even do that. She expired at like 6 weeks of the signing of the lease. And so this daughter inherits a property encumbered by a $60,000 lease that would have to be paid off, which would have been all of her profit. And so wholesaler after wholesaler tried to do something with her, but they couldn't negotiate the lease off the house. It was like, sorry, it's done. You know, you get the UCC1 on it.
You see those things on the roof? Not coming off.
Ever. And in fact, I went and looked at the UCC1 filing, and it was like, it's transferred to heir after heir after heir. It's like, it's like 10 generations long. It's crazy. Wow. Yeah. And so for me to come in and say, look, you know what, you're stuck, unfortunately. And this is the offer. This is the relief that I can give you. And that's all that she wanted, because she's like, I don't want to go to bankruptcy, because what happened was she co-signed for her mom on the lease, thinking that it was going to help her. And so it was her, everything was on her. And so that offer for her of debt relief was game changing for her. And she's the one in particular, whether it's Father's Day, whether it's Mother's Day for my wife, Thanksgiving or Christmas, even New Year's, she is texting me like 12 a.m. 12:01 a.m. on New Year's Eve. I got a text from her. Happy New Year, Ryan. God bless you and your family for what you did for me. Wow. And that stuff, better than all the paychecks that I've ever gotten, is that stuff. Because that emotional currency, I can go and spend everything else that I got. I can't spend that. Yeah. That stays with you forever. And that's honestly why I do what I do still to this day. I still go out and find these properties because I'm emotionally, I don't want to say addicted, but I love to help people, because that's just who I am as an individual.
Oh, clearly. I mean, you reach out to a guy and say, hey, I want to add a section to your course and ask for nothing. Yeah, you're addicted to helping. Yes, you are.
There you go, man. Yeah, that's my drug.
Exactly. Well, again, everybody owes you a debt of gratitude. Thank you for this. And again, really, when you think about seller financing, we've really attacked both angles, right? When I think about seller financing, my experience is, they've owned the property for decades. It's free and clear, but they have tax consequences. So we got you covered, right? We got a CPA. We've talked about it, how to have the conversation, how to even run the numbers and run the math. But again, where I see the economy going, where I see these avoidable foreclosures encumbering people, and again, they're not going to tell you. They're going to say, sign here. And you're going to go, thank you. I see years of pain of people not realizing that they're stuck. And it's guys like you and folks that take the course and learn how to have the conversations that can unstick people, because they're going to want to move. They're going to, they get a job transfer, or they get separated, or they want warmer weather or colder weather, whatever it is. And the way these avoidable foreclosures are, they're going to be stuck unless they call a guy like you.
Well, let me share a secret with you and your viewers here. I haven't shared this with very many people at all, but early on, I did an audit on all of the properties that we had, and I realized the ones that had the biggest margin as far as monthly cash flow were individuals who had previously gone through a loan mod, had extended their term out for 40 years, and had lowered the payment. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
They've already done the work for me.
This is good eating. I like this stuff.
This is great. And so what I did was I started to filter in my searches on my list is previous loan mod, current NOD. And I'm like, because the problem hadn't changed. Now, for a lot of people, they were forced into this COVID relief. However, some of them have not rectified the problem that caused it. And so they may get a temporary Band-Aid. I'm tracking those properties and I'm coming back after them. When I see the NOD hit and they've already got a loan mod, oh, you bet I am on those ones, because those are huge cash flow paydays in the future.
Yeah,
and that's
again,
a rarely talked about list.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, let's just paint this out. Even so, again, you're right. Those people are get hit. I'm going to guess that's 10, 15%. But here's the deal. I've been doing this a long time. I promise you another recession is coming. I promise you. And oh, by the way,
water out.
Yeah, sorry about that. I should have waited.
If you're true, it's like, yes.
Yeah, hello. And oh, by the way, the recession won't be 40 years from now. That's another promise. It'll be sooner than that. It'll probably be 4 years or less.
Over or under? I'm under.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. With what's going on right now, it's going to be close. But yeah, even if it's 6 years, who cares? It's coming. And oh, by the way, a 40-year with the previous loan mod, they've done the work, your payments, you're right. That's go help.
That is on a silver platter for me.
Yeah,
and sure. I don't know anyone else that can help that person out. And this is why the deals that I go after, I call them skinny deals. Because you mentioned that the free properties, being here in California, there's not that many of those. In the South where I started, oh man, all day long. Right. But out here, I had to find those skinny ones. And I had to become creative of like, how do I make the skinny deal work for this environment? And I found a niche and jumped into it feet first.
And dude, I got to tell you, we'll kind of end it here. What we've just talked about here, coming out of this situation, again, I think there'll be some people who haven't cured the reason, and you'll get some of that eaten now. Yeah. But I promise you, 3 years from now, it's going to be like, I'm in an all-you-can-eat buffet because a recession will happen. It's a part of the cycle, folks. And you've been set up with, learning now, getting after it, having discussions. Got to be a trusted advisor. There's some things you've got to take from Ryan's this discussion in the course. Understand? Yeah. Understand. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, you need to understand the structure, and you're going to watch his videos 3 or 4 times. I promise you, because he goes through them like he's looking at the back of his hand. But if you watch him and you understand the flow, it's beautiful. Second, it is about you, because you're taking over the payment. So you've got to be trusted. You can't be looked at as greedy. You can't be slimy. You've got to care. You got to shut up and listen, right? It's about you. And then get ready to eat, because the opportunities are coming.
That's right. You know what? I honestly believe the next 5 to 7 years is a time to create generational wealth.
Generational wealth. Yes, absolutely. And again, buy and hold is okay. There's nothing wrong with buy and hold, right?
No. Well, it's interesting. I actually brought that up into, because I know the main focus of one rental at a time is the buy and hold. So I bring that to the forefront. Like, hey, we're not that different from each other. The way we acquire the property is, but our goal is cash flow, and how we go about getting it is the exact. It's not exactly the same. Yeah, but it's like our goal is the exact same.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the way you do it, your yield, again, to use a number that you hear in the course, is frankly much higher than mine. It just is, right?
Sometimes it's infinitesimal.
Yeah, yeah. Infinity would be bigger than mine. I'm just saying. Just small details.
I mean, you get a property for they're paying you to take it. I mean, it's like, how do you quantify that?
Yeah, but even if you, again, right, some of these deals you're going into, you're spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 right on processing fees and maybe give them a check for moving expenses. But then you make $200 a month. 200 times 12 is 24. 24 divided by 1,000. That's a big number. That's a big number.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I'm break even in 2-3 years, but my whole thing is when I first got started, I had no money. And so what I needed to do was I needed to offload as much liability as I possibly could on the person that was moving in. And that's when I, quote unquote, sold it to them on a contract and collected a down payment and increased the cash flow. And off I went to the bank.
Folks, again, I want to close with what I opened with. Ryan reached out to me and said, I love what you have in the course. I want to add to it. He did it at free volition. We're adding more to this section called seller financing. I believe seller financing will be the vehicle that more properties acquired for in the next 3 to 5 years than any other vehicle. We all owe Ryan a huge debt of gratitude. This is actually going up on YouTube, so leave him a comment. Thank him for this, folks.
Wow,
we're trying to help people. So sign up now, do the work, and let's take care of generational wealth. I like that.
Thank you.
Any closing comments, Ryan? How can they follow you or be a part of your world?
You can find me on Facebook or on YouTube. I got the channel. It's Bootstrap REI. I think I'm wearing my shirt, Bootstrap Real Estate Investor.
There you go.
So I started, I bootstrapped the whole thing. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm just an email click away. I'm an open resource. I love to help people. And if you take advantage of it, I'll let you know.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much, Ryan. Again, I owe you a huge thanks. Everybody else in the audience does. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. What I'd like to do is extend to you an offer to join me on a masterclass. It's about 2.5 hours worth of just content, me answering all of your questions and teaching you the high-level strategies that we go into every day when we're doing seller financing. This is going to be limited to be anywhere between 10 to 12 people. It's a very intimate class. We make sure that you are understanding the concepts as you go through the process, and then also so your questions can be answered. If you're interested in joining me in this master class, we do one per month, and again, it's about 2.5 to 3 hours in length. Go ahead and click the link that you see here, and I'll see you there.